I'm John Miglash for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Thanks for joining me. Got a lot of fun today. Let's start with something. I saw this title, Geico new TV commercial, new apartment clogging problem. And I thought it was going to be about apartment overcrowding. But watch.
We love.
Oh, great. I can't show a video.
The new apartment.
The natural light is amazing.
Hardwood floors.
There is a bit of a clogging problem.
At least Geico makes it easy to bundle our renters and car insurance.
Yeah, helping us save even more.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
You got to admit, that's great. You just got to admit it. I don't know if you got to admit it, but I think it's great. So let's get over to something legit. Okay. Well, here's Tom Fishburne, and I always like to start with him on the week. And he's got marketing is more than communication. In case of emergency, break glass. All that's in here is a memo to cut our marketing budget. Yeah, right. Okay. Could that be true? Yeah, of course it can. Let's click this off so we can get rid of that background. And Tom references Mark Ritson, who I am going to reference right back at him because I talked about this 2 weeks ago. So Mark is a little behind. Tom is a little behind Mark. That's okay. The world does not need our support or concern in this crisis. The world needs us to do our job. And Mark, of course, mentioned Uber Eats. It's making it easier for retailers. eBay just launched a big program to help retailers this is for restaurants, help retailers get going, and a bunch of others that are doing their part to really make their business more accessible to the people that are supported by it. Both the customers, in the sense of Uber Eats, both the restaurants, their own employees, and the consumers all benefit. So marketing equals general management, and Tom basically said that when he started, he actually worked for a company where marketing had its own P&L, and I've always believed in that. I believed you have to understand EBITDA, you have to understand marketing, and as I told you once, I went up to Deluxe Check one time. That was about a $70 million division, and their accounting people couldn't figure out what the marketing people were doing with the sales and cost of goods, and it turned out that they were omitting overhead because the overhead shipping and sales tax was not was eroding their margin, and they got paid based on the margin, which shows you what pay methodologies can do to your company. Can do very dangerous things. And one of my friends who was president of Wisconsin Blue Cross once said to me, you need to change pay methodology about every 2 years just because they figure out how to game it, which I thought was absolutely true. Okay, so Fishburne, we have to do more with less. He was talking about how he basically had to do marketing budget with no budget, which is fine. But you got to keep going. And here's one. This is really apropos to the next article. You have full accountability for this P&L. Where are my controls? You have this one lever. If revenue drops, pull it. What does that do? It cuts your marketing budget. Right. Okay, let's move over to Anomalie. Anomalie is a wedding dress maker. Custom wedding dresses that you can buy online, of all things. Can you believe it? I never heard of such a thing. And so they're saying that women are postponing their weddings, but also can't go out and buy a dress even if their wedding is in 2021, right? Scheduled for early 2021, a year from now, maybe more. And so they've had a 25% increase in signups to its website. March will be the best sales month Anomalie ever had. So not all is dire, right? Got to remember that. we're the only one that designs with brides remotely, and we've got this team of stylists that have always had to manage their portfolios of brides remotely. We're going to find a lot of ways that some kind of remote preparedness is going to pay off in a big way for your company. As I've told you, we started doing remote in, I think, mid-90s. Mid-90s, a little bit around there. Around 97, I think, we started doing remote because my IT guy moved to Russia. And it worked out really well because he liked to work really late at night and not work during the regular day. So if you had a problem, all you could do was email him because he was sleeping during the day. And then he'd get back to you while you were out of the office. The next morning, you'd give something a try, but he wouldn't be there to interact with you. You move him east 7 hours, 7 time zones, and he's right there all the time during the business day. So it worked out really, really well for us. The video links were never very good, but you could at least get email back and forth and some other remote stuff. Anyway, so another point, and this goes along with what Tom Fishburne was talking about, is that if the company is guaranteed that all dresses purchased will be delivered a month before the wedding, or they refund you 1.5 times the price of the gown. Now that's what I call a no-risk guarantee. But a wedding is a once in a lifetime. I used to do some wedding photography. It was horrible. It was the worst thing I ever did because you better have your camera ready. In this day and age, you just have another memory chip to whack in there. But we had to actually physically open the camera, load the film. And then Grandma would say, "I was sure that photographer took my picture, but I never saw it in the proofs." Yeah, all right, okay. So when they say, "Now you may now kiss the bride," you better be ready because you don't get another shot at that one. Man, I hated that. It was terrible. I only did it for a little while for a couple, but anyway. So they're going to refund 1.5 times the price of the gown. So they better be ready. And what a great idea. They also are helping get masks delivered. One of their brides, actually, who was a nurse, ended up dying from the COVID-19. When was this? This was just last week. And so they got supply chain partners in China that are making masks, and so they're sending out masks. So it's a heck of a good company, but they're doing operationally, with their supply chain and with their guarantee, making it better for the customers and getting it done. And so now let's go over to Mark Ritson. Great article. Got to go all the way up. Nope, that's not it. Here it is. Mark Ritson. Is that Mark Ritson? Yeah. Okay. Mark says the best marketers will be upping, not cutting their budgets. Just like I put some money into the market for the first time really in my life, I'm going to put more in now as I see the deaths starting to plateau. The projection that they're using in the press briefings has already gone down from 2 million to 200,000 to 80,000, which is the normal deaths by flu plus pneumonia. And we've seen some really odd things in the pneumonia count, because normally if you get the flu and then get pneumonia and then you pass away, you are counted as a pneumonia death. This year, no can do. If you get pneumonia, you're counted as a COVID-19 death. And in fact, HIPAA prevents everybody from telling people what anybody's dying from, but they're happy to tell you that somebody died from COVID-19. So I actually personally believe the deaths are overstated, not because of science, but because of human nature. And we've talked about philosophy of science. Okay, so Mark, one of the great things about Mark is he'll talk about academics and studies and reports that have been well proven over decades. So Roland Viale, I know a guy named Viale. I wonder if he's related. Anyway, he got his master's at Harvard in 1924. And he studied the American economy. He started marketing in the American economy, and went to the University of Minnesota as a professor, I guess. And there was a recession or depression. It was called a depression in 1920, which I didn't know because they call it the Roaring Twenties, but apparently it started off with a fizzle instead of a bang, and so maybe we're seeing history repeat itself. Partly because of the Spanish flu, partly because of the aftermath of World War I. There was a lot of unemployment, people coming back from the war. So he divided 250 firms into those that cut their advertising, those that didn't believe in advertising, and those that increased it. And what he found was, basically, that companies that increased their ad budgets during the recession grew sales much faster. And you say, well, that's 1920. That's 100 years ago. What good is that? And it turns out that companies that decreased their advertising spend saw their sales decline not only during the recession, but then for the following 3 years. So they underperformed even those who did no advertising whatsoever. Okay? And the conclusion, and many subsequent studies have said that increasing ad spend during a downturn is inevitably the right thing. And I remember talking with the founder of Daytimers, and he said, what we try to do is we try to maintain our market share during good times and save up money so that in recessions we can advertise like crazy and acquire new customers. And that's what my clients are doing right now. They're continuing to mail and continuing to use our services, and we're doing some very creative stuff to find the right people to contact. But here's what basically works. Why this basically works is it sets up a company to survive the downturn and then prosper a lot in the period that follows. Okay? So companies, like a game of musical chairs. This is profound here. Thank you, Mark. The time to move around is while the recession music is playing in the background. That's what these studies find over and over and over. Why? Well, there was another study by Gary Tellis and his son Keithan, who was in graduate school. They examined 40 empirical studies. So you're not going to be able to argue with this a big deal, right? You're going to have to go with this. 40 studies, okay? And what they found was that basically most marketers are stupid, or their management is, and the easiest thing to cut is the marketing budget. I remember when the Asian financial crisis hit, Adobe cut their ad budget in half. And we were just picked to handle all of their direct marketing, taking our monthly revenue from them from $40,000 to $280,000, fourfold increase, which would have been real money for me. But instead, they cut their budget in half, even though we were making them an ROI like no one had ever seen. But they said, we're not going to let a $25 million, which we'd then doubled to $50 million in like 6 months. We're not going to let a $50 million division dictate the advertising spend for $1 billion company. Well, they weathered the storm. We didn't, not so much. But what really happens is that when your competitors all cut back dramatically, every dollar you spend doubles in effectiveness. I can tell you, the mailbox is not full right now. And advertising has both a short-term and a long-term effect. So even if we go through May, which I think is insane, and oh, by the way, no one will ever be able to validate whether this social distancing worked or didn't work, wrecked the economy for no good reason, or was tremendously effective. Both scenarios are going to be true, however you look at it, because we don't have good split testing. Dr. Fauci, we don't have clinically valid testing of what happens in a recession. Excuse me. So what happens is you increase effectively every dollar you spend. So we're going to keep these things going because it's my chance to shout at you. And apparently my live stream's signed off, but we're going to keep on going because it's still recording. Okay, so when the economy expands, all firms tend to increase advertising, but at that point, no single firm gains anything. Right? And you may have less resources than you did before. So you may actually lose. But if you keep going, if you increase your investment right now, the background noise is silent. There's just nobody doing it. So if you need a marketing model, if you need to figure out which customers are in the pink, you know who to call. Advertising has both a short and long-term effect. These longer-term effects can take years to fully manifest, and they're largely invisible. Point 1. Point 2. Less able marketers will cut their ad budgets. Point 3. The same investment will have a much greater impact right now. The recession and ramping ad spend back up when the recession ends is relatively pointless. Because, see point 1. The recession is then, because of points 1 to 4, an unprecedented opportunity to increase advertising and grow market share. Okay? And it has to do with excess share of voice. If you're advertising double your market share in terms of the proportion of the voice you have, then your market share will go up. But you have to do it that way. You have to think of it that way. And so, because of that, if everyone else cuts their budget in half, your share of voice, if you just stay the same, will double. And your market share will double. So suddenly your budget that was 10% of share of voice now doubles to 20%. Okay? And so, in a certain sense, you need everybody else to do the wrong thing in order for this to work, which they probably will because that's the way it is. People are like sheep. So, in a 2010 article in the Harvard Business Review, Roaring Out of Recession, these guys found out that only 9% of 4,700 companies managed to emerge from the recession in better shape than when they entered it. One key hallmark was the ability to cut budgets in some areas while continuing to invest in marketing and advertising. That is killer. And it's a split test. The authors cite American retailer Target as a prime example. During the 2000 recession, the company relentlessly reduced operating costs and tightened distribution margins while upping its marketing and sales budget by 20%. Okay? It was a formula that not only saw Target emerge from that recession unscathed, but set it up for the most successful decade in its history. The optimum response to the recession is to maintain and ideally increase your advertising investment. Unfortunately, to pull this off, you need 3 things. You need to have some money, and most people have a little bit. You need an executive team that's smart enough to know that marketing is an investment. And you need not to be right? If you can keep your head and your marketing budget while those around you are losing theirs, you will be a marketer, my friend. And I'm not sure this is recording very well, but hopefully it is. Have a great day. Like and share. We'll see what happens. Bye-bye.